It's not your fault, all right? It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
In life, all we really want is for people to understand us, to believe in us, and to hear us. I believe that this is a very universal and human sentiment to have. The scars we carry and the trials and tribulations we were thrusted through, though, oftentimes impair our ability to extend sympathy or to truly reach the core of another person. And so, we start to push people away. We start abandoning ourselves, and we begin to form a shell made up of anger, regret, and frustration. But as dismal as this may sound, every now and then, we meet someone who eclipses all these all-consuming currents of loneliness and self-hatred, who taps into our entire being in all its flaws and abilities, and we find someone who truly sees us. And that's what RobinWilliams' characters have always been for me. Shielders and dispellers of our most antagonistic thoughts, believers in the irrational, and avid supporters for those acts that make us truly ourselves in the most authentic and meaningful manner. And in this 4-part video series, I'll be breaking down the 3 characters that have meant the most to me. Good Will Hunting chronicles the story of the title character, Will Hunting, as he struggles to overcome his post-trauma with a therapist, while also juggling with the expectations of a professor who seeks to push Will to his best mathematical potential. At the heart of the story, I'd say, is the importance and rarity of having someone stand by you, even when the rest of the world sees you as a lost cause, no good member of society, to be believed in and rescued from the trenches of your very own traumatic past. While working as a janitor at MIT, MattDamon's Will Hunting finishes a math question no one in the actual math class could. This acts as a catalyst event that sets off the rest of the film, as a seemingly unassuming man is revealed to be a mathematical genius. Will had a tough childhood. He had been orphaned early on and moved around to different foster homes and was abused in them. As such, he's developed a rather defensive outlook on life, and an unfortunate byproduct of that is that he gets into fights easily because his brain is wired to interpret most actions as a threat, so he pounces to attack in fear of others doing it first.
Hi, it's me, Will. Remember we went to kindergarten together?
One day, he decides to pick a fight with his kindergarten bully and is arrested by the police. And in order to not receive a prison sentence, a deal is struck between the municipal court and MIT. The deal, facilitated by Professor Gerard Lambeau, played by Stellan Skarsgård, was a professor who wrote the math formula Will solved.
I've spoken to the judge, and he's agreed to release you under my supervision. But under 2 conditions.
What are those?
One that required Will to work under his wing, and another, which proves to be more central to the story, was a weekly session with a therapist, whom we'll come to know as Sean McGuire, played by RobinWilliams. And all of these conditions, Will, of course, finds it laughable.
Good, I'm pumped. Let's let the healing begin.
Will's understanding of the world and general hostility is shaped by the rottenness of people. So everything he does to push people away is an involuntary act to prove to himself that people in the world really are as cruel as his past experiences have proven to be. So he continually seeks opportunities to prove this dismal hypothesis of his. He builds his understanding on the world on facts. Despite not receiving much formal education, Will is incredibly well-read, logical, and analytical in thought. He's able to recite passages from books he's read from the public libraries and debate well-educated Harvard students, which he does once at a bar with a guy who was embarrassing his friend.
James Lemon, then you're going to be talking about how the economies of Virginia and Pennsylvania were entrepreneurial and capitalist way back in 1740. That's going to last until next year. You're going to be in here regurgitating Gordon Wood, talking about, the pre-revolutionary utopia and the capital-forming effects of military mobilization.
He even goes to defend himself in court.
I am afforded the right to speak in my own defense, sir. By the Constitution of the United States. This is the same document which guarantees my liberty.
Of the United States.
Now, liberty, in case you've forgotten, is the soul's right to breathe. And when it cannot take a long breath, laws are girded too tight. Without liberty, man is a cinco.
Man is a what?
Ibid, Your Honor.
He cites case laws and presents a fairly convincing argument, and we certainly wouldn't have expected a janitor to be able to pull off such feats. But Will does, because he is a smart kid. But we also have to be aware of the nature of Will's knowledge. He's read them from somewhere else. To Will, facts are reliable. The study of history is reliable, because they've either happened already or follow a law of predictability, and what is predictable and factual can't hurt him. So when we see him pushing Sean away in the first meeting, insulting his painting, denigrating his marital status.
What happened? Why'd she leave you? Was she, banging some other guy?
Or bursting into anger with Skylar, the girl he met at the bar, as they were beginning to move past a casual relationship.
I don't love you.
Will pushes back, because he fears that kind of safety and how the possible sense of false security would lead him back to yet another traumatic experience. As we return to the opening clip for this video, the repeated "it's not your fault" phrase Sean directs to Will is really what Will has wanted to hear his entire life. Feeling as though all of his self-sabotaging traits of pushing people away or being abandoned by everyone at a young age were due to him being unlovable and broken, rather than the result of externally imposed experiences that he, as a child, had no grasp over. He's learned at a young age to internalize all these unloving sentiments, which renders him feeling at fault for all the bad things that have ever happened to him. In Will's general perception of the world, people are inherently bad, because they will desert you, and they will lie to you, and hurt you, and most importantly, they will let you down.
I'm also aware that you've been through several foster homes. The state removed you from 3 because of serious physical abuse.
That this isn't fucking surgery, that the motherfucker stabbed me.
The fact that Will has not only been hurt by the very people who should have loved him the most, but also have been abused so violently, renders trust and love a funny thing to him, somewhat comical and non-existent, perhaps just a sound people who've never been hurt by say as a good word. In short, he was never safe or at any ease, because no one in his early life ever provided space for that. And so he was always like a soldier, always alert for potential threats, and ready to charge at any moment. So as Sean so succinctly puts it, Will's defense mechanism is offense in itself. In a tragic sense, it was his security, just knowing how bad things could turn out.
He pushes people away before they have a chance to leave him. It's a defense mechanism, all right? And for 20 years, he's been alone because of that. And if you push him right now, it's going to be the same thing all over again, and I'm not going to let that happen to him.
But what Sean is able to make Will realize is that he's not as alone as he makes himself out to be, and he doesn't have to be. No matter how many times Will tries to challenge Sean or be as difficult of a client as he can be, Sean doesn't stutter. He doesn't immediately deem him to be just another kid who won't amount to anything, or a troublemaker because that's just his nature. Instead, Sean sees Will for the insecure and intelligent boy that he is, and unlike other therapists who perceive Will's troubled attitude and constant fuss during their sessions as an annoying waste of their time, Sean recognizes the hidden cries for help Will so casually admits as he lashes out. And so, Sean chooses to devote his precious time to an individual who so clearly would benefit and heal from it.
Thursday, 4 o'clock. Make sure the kid's here.
Sean is able to pinpoint exactly what Will's core is, his hopes, his dreams, his fears, and that at the end of the day, he's just a child still.
I look at you, I don't see an intelligent, confident man. I see a cocky, scared, shitless kid.
Most poignantly, calling Will out for working at MIT, because he could have been a janitor anywhere else in the world, yet he chose to work at one of the most prestigious universities for science and technology. And this nudges Will to be honest with himself, even just for once, that maybe he does want his talents recognized, just that he's afraid to fully commit to them.
I just have a little question here. You could be a janitor anywhere. Why did you work at the most prestigious technical college in the whole fucking world? Why did you sneak around at night and finish other people's formulas that only 1 or 2 people in the world could do and then lie about?
And after their first official meeting, where Sean attentively dissects Will's life and informs him that Will's usual tricks won't work on him, he lets Will decide whether to pursue therapy with Sean, even if the road is paved with uncertainty and Will might not like what he discovers.
Your move, Chief.
Sean in this line here bestows Will with a different kind and positive control. Rather than being a wounded animal lashing out because that's what he thinks he can do, either by picking a physical fight or making snarky comments at people, Sean gives him the option to learn about himself by asking Will to confront himself first, asking Will if he's ready to embark on the path of self-discovery, one that challenges him and could scare him. And surely enough, after countless sessions with Sean, Will becomes vulnerable and in a very touching moment breaks down in Sean's embrace. What Will had to do here was so incredibly difficult, was to accept that there could be people like that, and that the world isn't as bad as he thought. Sean altered Will's view on people, a complete paradox shift. In the simplest terms, he let Will know that it's all right and safe to trust people, and that there will be people who'd love you as you are, with all your flaws, past burdens, and all the things we sweep under the rug. And of course, another lesson Will learns is the necessity of truly experiencing life, and to take a leap of faith, no matter how uncomfortable it may seem. Sean's final line to Will at the end of their final session is an especially affective line as well.
Hey. Good luck, son.
It's a touching line to end their final meeting, because to call him son is the ultimate term of endearment. Although it doesn't remedy the lack of a healthy father-son relationship, just by the implication of a familial dynamic in the word son means that Will and Sean's relationship serves as a new one, in a sense either restoring or establishing the type of relationship Will never had in his childhood. Sean reinstills Will's faith in people and their potential for goodness, and I think the use of the phrase "good luck, son" is just so succinct to what their relationship has become, encapsulates it, their pseudo father and son relationship. It serves as a tender moment to end their final session, and I would go as far as to say very poetic, because of its very subtlety and specificity. What defines Sean is his patience. Although he may not understand completely what Will's upbringing has led him to be, he believed in the genuine panicked child behind Will's tough facade. He recognized that Will was a tortured child who was never given any grace, and taught at a young age that he was unwanted, especially having been shipped door to door. Will was basically a hurt animal lashing out, and Sean could see that, so he extended the patience necessary for Will to feel at ease on Will's own terms. He saw past all his defense mechanisms and abrasive speech practices and brought the entirety of Will to the surface, so Will could finally breathe in the air of clarity and no longer suffocate in darkness alone. And I'm sure we've all felt this way, one way or another, too scared to be vulnerable, too proud to be vulnerable, and too hurt to be vulnerable, just as Will has been, only to be softened and have our hand held and led out of our shell metaphorically, by someone so selfless and empathetic that our worst instincts don't faze them, but instead encourages them to peer into us deeply and reach us out of the black pool of isolation we've locked ourselves in for so long. And that's who Sean was to Will, a guardian angel, father figure, and selfless therapist who saw past Will's jagged edges and held him close, not because of it, but in spite of it.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Will.
Hey, does this violate the patient-doctor relationship?
Only if you grab my ass.